Welcome to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into one of the biggest shifts happening in enterprise technology right now, corporate AI transformation in 2026. We're talking about moving from chatbots, those helpful but limited tools most companies deployed last year, to something far more powerful, agentic workflows and orchestration. Sam, this feels like a real inflection point in how enterprises think about AI, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Alex. And what's fascinating is the data backs this up. We're seeing enterprises realize that chatbots alone aren't cutting it anymore. Sure, 78% of companies have deployed conversational AI, but only 23% are actually seeing real ROI beyond saving a few dollars on customer service. That gap tells us something important. Companies are waking up to the fact that chat interfaces solve just one tiny piece of the puzzle.
So what's the missing piece? Why aren't chatbots delivering the returns companies expected?
It's pretty straightforward when you think about it. Chatbots can talk to you, but they can't act. They can't integrate with your CRM, trigger actions in your ERP system, move data between systems, or execute multi-step business processes without a human jumping in at every decision point. They're isolated islands in your enterprise ecosystem. That's where agentic workflows come in. They're designed to actually do things, autonomously, across your entire business infrastructure.
Okay, so let's define what we mean by agentic workflows, because that term is getting thrown around a lot and I think people need clarity. What exactly is an agentic workflow?
Great question. An agentic workflow is fundamentally different from a chatbot because it's self-directed and goal-oriented. Instead of waiting for a human to ask it a question, an agent is working toward a specific business outcome, like resolving customer service tickets under a certain value or automating invoice processing. It accesses data across multiple systems, makes decisions autonomously within guardrails you set, and escalates only when it hits something complex or high stakes that genuinely needs human judgment.
So it's proactive rather than reactive. The agent is out there doing work, not just responding. That sounds powerful, but also, and I'm sure you've seen this, potentially risky if it's not built correctly.
Exactly right. That's why the architecture matters so much. You can't just deploy an autonomous agent and hope for the best. You need clear guardrails, what we call autonomy within boundaries. Routine tasks? The agent handles those independently. Complex decisions or high-stakes transactions? Those go to a human. And critically, everything is logged and auditable so you can explain why the agent made a decision. That's not just good practice, it's becoming a legal requirement.
Speaking of requirements, the EU AI Act is a huge factor here in 2026, isn't it? Compliance isn't an afterthought anymore.
It's the opposite of an afterthought. It has to be baked into the system from day one. The EU AI Act classifies many agentic workflows as high-risk systems, which means you need explainability, human oversight, documentation, and regular auditing. Organizations that are building these workflows successfully in 2026 aren't treating compliance as a checkbox. They're treating it as a core architectural requirement. If compliance isn't embedded from the start, you're building something that will fail regulatory review down the road.
Let's talk about the business impact numbers, because they're compelling. You mentioned earlier that companies using agentic workflows are seeing productivity gains in the 34 to 47% range in back-office processes, compared to 8 to 12% for chatbot-only approaches. That's a significant difference.
It's night and day. And here's why. When you automate an entire workflow, not just the conversation part but the actual business process, you're compounding your gains. A chatbot might save time on answering questions, but an agent that can process invoices, update records, check compliance, and escalate exceptions automatically? That's transforming how your entire operation runs. The research also shows that enterprise leaders now see workflow automation as their #1 AI priority, ranked 3.2 times higher than general chatbot deployment. That's the market telling us where the real value is.
So practically speaking, what does a company need to do to make this transition? What's the roadmap from chatbots to agentic workflows?
First, you need to identify where your high-value, repetitive processes live. That's your starting point. Not flashy AI for its own sake, but workflows that will actually move the needle financially. Second, you need the infrastructure, APIs, data integration, system connectivity. You can't have an agent without access to your data and systems. Third, and this is critical, you need governance. Define your guardrails, your escalation rules, your audit requirements, and fourth, pilot and iterate. Don't deploy an agent to your entire finance department on day one. Test it, refine the rules, make sure it works.
That brings up the human element, which I think gets overlooked sometimes. People worry that agents mean fewer jobs, but that's not really the narrative here, is it?
Not at all. The research actually shows the opposite dynamic emerging. Coursera's workforce development data indicates that organizations using agentic workflows are upskilling employees, not replacing them. The tedious, repetitive work, the stuff nobody wants to do, gets automated. Your team moves up the value chain. They're handling exceptions, making strategic decisions, and doing work that actually requires human judgment. That's a much better story than pure automation and layoffs. It's about augmentation, not replacement.
So we're looking at a real transformation, not just a technology upgrade. Let me ask you this. What happens to companies that don't make this shift? What's the competitive risk?
It's significant. We're at the point where agentic workflows and orchestration are becoming table stakes, not cutting edge. Companies that are still running chatbots in 2026 are leaving 30+ percentage points of productivity gains on the table. Over a year or two, that compounds into real competitive disadvantage. You're less efficient, your employees are doing more manual work, and you're not innovating as fast as competitors who've already made the transition. In a tight market, that's dangerous.
And one more piece. We haven't really talked much about orchestration itself. That's different from just having a single agentic workflow, right?
Great distinction. Orchestration is about coordinating multiple agents and workflows together, often with different goals. One agent might be handling customer service tickets, another managing invoice processing, another doing supply chain coordination. Orchestration ensures these agents communicate, pass information between each other, avoid conflicting actions, and work toward aligned business outcomes. It's like conducting an orchestra. Individual musicians are talented, but without a conductor, you get chaos. That's the level of sophistication leading enterprises are reaching in 2026.
That's really well put. I think what we're hearing is that this isn't incremental improvement. It's a wholesale rethinking of how enterprises automate work and decision-making. Sam, any final thoughts for our listeners who are leading AI transformation initiatives?
Start with a clear business problem and a measurable outcome. Don't build agentic workflows because it's trendy. Build them because they solve real operational challenges. Get your infrastructure and governance right before you deploy, and engage your teams early. Help them see this as an opportunity to do better work, not a threat. The organizations that nail this transition will be the ones that balance technological ambition with practical realism and human-centered change management.
Excellent advice. Listeners, if you want to dig deeper into the strategy, the technical architecture, compliance requirements, and real-world implementation patterns for agentic AI workflows, head over to etherlink.ai and find the full article. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's so much more detail on use cases, governance frameworks, and step-by-step roadmaps. Thanks for joining us on EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, this is Sam, and we'll see you next time.